In this video, I'm going to walk you through the seventh and final principle of art, which is harmony. I'm going to talk about what harmony is, show you a few examples, then I'm going to walk you through 7 different visual tangents that can destroy the harmony within your image. So let's start with what harmony is. And harmony is the most subjective principle of art there is out there. It's almost like saying the photographer's eye, or you just have a feeling that everything in this shot looks good. It's mainly just finding a way to balance all of these elements of design and all of these principles we've talked about so far in a way that just looks appealing. And it almost gives you this sense that there's nothing in the shot that shouldn't be there. So with that being said, I'm just gonna throw 3 examples up real quick so you can see some harmonious shots from my perspective. So the first example I wanted to show you is this shot of this tree right here. So this was taken on a beach in Washington. And as you can see, the harmonious aspects, in my opinion, are the fact that we have this moon on this creepy night, and then we have those roots that almost have a spider web-like effect. And this tree is obviously going through a tough time, so the whole image just has this kind of creepy, horror, unsettling vibe to it. And in that sense, there's a harmony within that theme. So on the opposite side of the spectrum, check out this image right here. We have a sunset beach in Nicaragua, and we have a nice, very smooth staircase of rocks where we got that water flowing off it. And then in that water surface, we got a reflection of that beautiful sky. We have a moody backdrop, and in general, the whole image just has a very tranquil vibe to it. So the lesson here is that you can find harmony within different themes. So we had that first horror-esque theme, and now we're getting harmony in a tranquil beach sunset kind of way. Finally, I wanted to show you this image right here. So in this shot, we have a boat that is providing a very nice harmonious blend between mankind and nature. So obviously man built that boat, and we also have those birds on it that are providing a nice sense of calmness to the shot. And fun fact, this shot was actually a double exposure time blend. So I got one shot of that water very still, then I had to take another shot of all of those birds perfectly still because they were just jumping around, tweeting, moving all over the place. And I took that at a high shutter, and then in Photoshop, I blended those 2 images together. So this image actually took a couple hours to edit to get it perfectly, but I feel like it was worth it for that blend of harmony that you don't see very often in a shot like this. So again, you know, harmony is a very subjective opinion. Not everyone's gonna have the same idea of what it means to you, but just go with your gut feeling. What is your intuition telling you? Does this shot work or does it not? So now let's take a second to talk about visual tangents. And since there's not a lot to talk about in the harmony world, there's no technical process in how to build it, I figured this video would be a great opportunity to walk you through things that can destroy your harmony. So that's what visual tangents are. They're little elements of a composition that can throw the whole image off if you don't know what you're doing. The first visual tangent I wanted to show you is called closed corners. So this is any corner in a shot that's closed off, usually by a single outlier color or texture or pattern that just draws your eye there and you just don't want it to be there. So check out this image, for example, that I took a couple years ago. We have this entire bottom left corner of the image that is just cut off from the tranquility of the rest of the scene. So other than this corner, it's a fantastic photo. But your eye just gets sucked into that corner and you just don't want to look there. So if I were to redo this shot, I would probably angle my camera a couple feet to the right so that I can make that corner closed, or maybe not even include any of that sand in the shot and just have those plants in the corner to help balance it out more. So one thing to keep in mind, that closed corner doesn't necessarily mean you should mix it up with a rule like the golden triangles. So the golden triangles symmetrically divides images in half to create a certain balance. Images like this don't have that balance because that diagonal line isn't even halfway through the shot. It's just arbitrarily thrown in there. So the solution is to avoid having those corners altogether. However, if you must have one in an image, then I'd recommend either softening it or darkening it so the eye doesn't go there, or even desaturating it just to make sure that eye isn't being led in that direction. The second visual tangent I want to go over is called halved shapes. So this means don't cut any shape in your image in half if it's one of the primary subjects of your photo. So for example, check out this image right here. We have this beautiful shot of these leaves on top of this bigger leaf. And it's cut right down that line there on the side. And it just looks very unbalanced and it doesn't look very good. However, if we were to cut this differently, perhaps crop it like this, we now have the entire leaf in the frame. As you can see, there's a little bit of space between those edges on the corners there. And now it is much more balanced and looks much more wholesome. So don't cut primary subjects off in half and you will be in a world of difference. The next visual tangent is called fused edges on the frame. So this essentially means you have a portion of your shot that's a subject or a secondary subject and it's touching one of the crop corners of your shot. So check out this image right here. We got the Hollywood sign that's resting on that very bottom crop. And we also have those palm trees in the top right and the top of the image that are touching the corners of the shot. So this makes your images feel very claustrophobic. So never crop your images right along one of the subject lines. You want to give them space to breathe. So check out this image now. It's cropped much better. Those subjects have room to breathe and it overall looks like a much better shot. So never cut right on the edges. The next visual tangent is similar to the last one, except this one is called fused edges with shapes. So now instead of having one of your primary or secondary subjects touching the edge of the shot, you now have them touching each other. So for example, if you have one subject here and one here, if they're touching like this, that is a no-go. You want them to either overlap or have room to breathe next to each other. So check out this image right here. We have me standing in the center of the waterfall, which is the first shape, and then the second shape would be those rocks right next to me. And the reason this image doesn't work well is because I am directly touching those rocks on the side. Ideally, I'd be positioned about 2 feet to the right of this shot so I was more silhouetted in that white stream of water and separating myself from that triangular shape of those moss rocks to the left of me. The next visual tangent is called a split apex. So this is if you have two vertical lines that align on top of each other if they are different subjects. So the best way to describe it would be with this image right here. So this was taken on a prairie in Colorado, and I actually managed to avoid this tangent here. But if this tangent were to occur in this shot, you would have that tree align with the pole below it. As you can see, I got the pole over to the right a little bit, but if I were to angle the camera so the tree was directly on top of it and it created a solid line, it would create this unnecessary symmetry that just distracts the viewer and kind of gives this weird optical illusion that's unsettling to the viewer. So you want to avoid that split apex if you see it. The next visual tangent is called a stolen edge. So this is similar to fused edges within a shape, except now when those two lines touch each other, they create one solid line. So basically you're having two shapes that are sharing the same edge. And this is a no-go because it also creates another optical illusion that's a little bit tricky to figure out within your mind. So a great example of this would be this shot right here. As you can see, we have those two trees that are fused together right along those lines there. And it just makes this image feel a little bit more uncomfortable. And I took this fairly early in my career, so I don't have a fixed version of this. But if I were to go back in time, I would move the camera a little bit to the right so I can get those three trees jutting in different directions and provide a better balance to this shot. The final visual tangent is called antlers. And this is a pretty obnoxious thing that you don't even really notice a lot of the time, but it does pop up from here to there. So essentially it means you have a single subject in your shot, and then you have some type of antlers that appear on top of it, usually from a tree branch or two poles or something that just diverts off in a V over your image. And it's very distracting to the viewer, and it's almost like an arrow pointing at the shot, but it's unnecessary. So check out this shot right here. I took this at a waterfall in Mexico, and otherwise a very harmonious shot, except we have those tree branches that are creating a V shape right over that central plant in this shot. And now every time I look at this image, that's all I see. I tried to darken it a little bit and reduce the value of those antlers, but it's still noticeable to me every time. So it is a tangent to look out for. It will pop up very sneakily. So just keep an eye on the background of your shots and see if there's any weird shaped trees in the background. And those are all the different visual tangents, just things to look out for in your shot. And I know they're very subtle things that you might not notice right away, but trust me, all of the subtle things add up in photography to create that harmonious image. So be on the lookout for these. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the next video.